My girlfriend told me, "You'll never find someone like me." She's right. I upgraded. Now she stalks my stories like it's a full-time job. I'm Alex, 28, male, and I can't stop replaying the last words my ex, Jenna, 27, female, spat at me before I walked out. You'll never find someone like me. The thing is, she was right. I didn't. I found better. When we first met, Jenna was intoxicating. She had that kind of energy that pulled people in, always laughing the loudest, always taking up the most space in a room. At first, I loved it. She made life feel bigger, faster, like I was finally living instead of just existing. But over time, that big energy started to feel more like a fire that only burned on her terms. If I didn't feed it, by agreeing, by praising, by sacrificing, she turned cold. There were red flags, but I smothered them under excuses. Like the night she joked at a party that I was lucky she even dated me because I'd never get a girl like her again. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but inside it stung. Or the way she controlled our weekends. If she wanted sushi, it was sushi. If I wanted a quiet night in, I was boring. Somehow, my preferences became evidence of me being small, unambitious, not enough. The cracks widened last year. We were 3 years in living together, and I thought maybe we were building something real. But she thrived on chaos. Nights out 3 times a week, Instagram stories curated like she was running a brand instead of a life. I was working my ass off at my job in construction management, pulling 10-hour days, trying to save for a future. Meanwhile, she mocked me for being tired or too serious. The breaking point was ugly. We were arguing about money. She'd just dropped $600 on some networking event that was basically a club night with overpriced champagne. I told her we needed to slow down. Think about what we actually wanted long term. She sneered at me, glass of wine in hand, and delivered that line with venom. You'll never find someone like me. Something in me just snapped quiet. Not loud, not dramatic, just this deep bone-level realization. Good. I don't want someone like her. I packed a bag that night. She screamed, cried, blocked the door, even threw my laptop case against the wall so hard it cracked. I kept my voice low, steady. I left anyway. Fast forward 6 months, I met Taylor, 26, female. She's nothing like Jenna, and that's the point. Taylor listens. She's calm without being dull, kind without being fake. She asks about my day and actually hears the answer. The first time I cooked dinner for her, she smiled like it was the best meal she'd ever had. With her, I don't feel like I'm auditioning to be enough. I just am. And now Jenna? She watches every single one of my Instagram stories within minutes of me posting. Vacation pics, date nights with Taylor, even dumb selfies at work. She's always there, the first view, like it's her job. And honestly, I hope she sees it. The stalking started as background noise. Annoying, but ignorable. Jenna, 27, female, always had a flair for dramatics, so her watching my stories was almost expected. But then she started creeping closer. It was subtle at first, a coincidental, like on one of my old posts from 2 years back. A DM saying, "Funny, I was just at that coffee shop too," after I tagged a location. I ignored her. Taylor, 26, female, saw it once and asked, "Do you want me to block her?" But I shook my head. Blocking Jenna felt like acknowledging she still had space in my life. I wanted to starve her of that satisfaction, but starving Jenna of attention is like waving a red cape at a bull. She escalated. One Friday night, Taylor and I were leaving this little Italian place downtown, our spot. We're walking to my truck hand in hand when I hear it. Jenna's voice. Sharp. Too loud for the quiet street. "Wow, already moved on, huh?" She was leaning against a lamppost like some movie villain, arms crossed, hair perfectly styled. My chest tightened. I hadn't seen her in person since the breakup, and for a split second the old pull of her intensity hit me. Then I saw her eyes, wild, unblinking. Taylor froze beside me. She didn't know Jenna beyond the stories I'd told, but she knew enough to sense danger. I kept my voice calm. "Not your business, Jenna. Go home." She laughed, bitter. "Home? You were my home, Alex. You don't just replace someone like me with her." She flicked her chin toward Taylor like she was something stuck to her shoe. Taylor's grip on my hand tightened. My pulse hammered. People were walking by, glancing over, the kind of scene you can't help rubbernecking at. "Let's go," I murmured, guiding Taylor toward the truck. But Jenna wasn't done. She lunged forward, yanking my arm. "Don't walk away from me!" Her nails dug in. For a second, the world shrank to her hand on my skin and the old panic that came with it. The way she used to corner me in arguments until I backed down just to end it. I yanked free, harder than I meant to. She stumbled back, gasped like I'd hit her. "You're hurting me!" she shrieked, loud enough that every passerby turned their head. My stomach dropped. She was performing. Taylor stepped between us, fire in her eyes I'd never seen before. "Back off, Jenna. Seriously." Jenna's face twisted, a mix of rage and something almost childlike, desperate. Then she spat on the ground, inches from my boots. "You'll regret this, both of you." We drove home in silence, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Taylor finally whispered, "That wasn't just jealousy, that was dangerous." She was right. And that night, at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. Jenna had tagged me in a story, just a black screen with the words, "You think you're safe, but you're not." My blood went cold. Don't forget to subscribe. After that night downtown, I kept waiting for things to cool off. Maybe Jenna, 27, female, just needed to blow up once and get it out of her system. That's what I told myself anyway. But the truth? People like Jenna don't burn out. They burn hotter. It started with my truck. I came out one morning to head to work and found a long, deliberate scratch down the driver's side door. Not a careless bump. Not some random vandal. A message. Taylor, 26, female, asked if I wanted to file a police report. I told her I couldn't prove it was Jenna, even though in my gut I knew. The timing, the way she'd glared at my truck when we walked away from her, it all lined up. 2 days later, Taylor's Instagram blew up. Jenna had created a burner account and was spamming her posts with comments like, "Homewrecker," and "Hope you're proud stealing someone's man." Taylor blocked and reported, but by then, a few of her friends had already seen it and messaged her asking what was going on. Taylor held it together in front of me, but later that night I found her crying in the bathroom, shoulders shaking. That gutted me. I texted Jenna directly for the first time since the breakup. Just 5 words. "Leave us the fuck alone." Her reply came fast. "Or what? You gonna hit me now, Alex, like you almost did downtown?" My blood boiled. She was rewriting the scene, twisting it. It's what she always did, play the victim when she was the aggressor. Things escalated in real life, too. One evening, I got home late from work and saw Taylor's car parked crooked in the driveway. She was inside, pale and trembling. "She was here," she whispered. "Jenna was standing in the yard when I pulled up, just staring at me. Didn't move. Didn't say anything. Just stood there." I walked the yard with a flashlight, every muscle in my body wired tight. Nothing, of course. She'd vanished, but the grass was flattened where someone had been standing too long. That night, I slept with a baseball bat next to the bed. Taylor curled against me but didn't really sleep. I could feel her heart pounding. Then came the breaking point. A week later, I was on site at work when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, and a man's voice said, "Hey, are you Alex? Your girlfriend's here. She's kind of a mess." Turns out Jenna had shown up at my job, at the fucking construction site. She was in the parking lot crying hysterically, telling the foreman I'd abandoned her after all she gave me. My coworkers were standing around awkwardly watching the show. My face burned with humiliation. I walked her to the edge of the lot, jaw clenched so hard it hurt, and told her if she ever came there again I'd call the police. She leaned in close, eyes wet but sharp. "You don't get it, Alex. I made you. Without me, you're nothing. And if you think you can erase me, I'll erase her." For the first time, I was scared. Not for me, but for Taylor. That night, I double-checked every lock in the house. And I realized something. Ignoring Jenna wasn't working. She thrived in the silence. No, if she wanted a war, maybe it was time I gave her one. I didn't sleep much after that scene at work. Every time a car passed outside, my body jolted like it was her. I'd glance at Taylor, 26, female, curled up beside me, and feel this mix of guilt and rage. She hadn't signed up for this circus, and yet Jenna, 27, female, had pulled her straight into it. For weeks, I was reactive, patching holes, apologizing for Jenna's chaos, making excuses. But that night, lying in the dark, I realized something. I knew Jenna better than anyone. I knew how she craved an audience, how she lived for appearances, how she needed to control the story. And maybe that could be turned against her. The opportunity came faster than I expected. One Saturday, Taylor and I went to a friend's birthday. Jenna must have seen it on my story because she showed up at the same bar. She wasn't even subtle, stormed in wearing this sequined dress loud as ever. The second she saw me, she turned on the waterworks, sobbing about how I'd ruined her life. People started staring, phones came out. I could feel Taylor tense beside me, ready for the usual humiliation. But instead of shrinking back, I smiled. I pulled Taylor closer and kissed her, slow and deliberate, right there in front of everyone, including Jenna. Jenna's scream cut through the music. She threw her drink, red wine, that splashed across the floor, nearly hitting a couple nearby. Security moved fast, dragging her out as she clawed at the air, shrieking that I'd stolen everything from her. The whole bar was buzzing. Here's the thing, though. Jenna hates looking weak. She wants to be the victim, sure, but only if she controls the narrative. She can't stand being laughed at, and right then people weren't pitying her. They were rolling their eyes, recording her meltdown, mocking her. That gave me an idea. For the next week, I stopped avoiding Jenna online. I leaned in. I started posting more. Pictures of me and Taylor laughing, cooking dinner, hiking trails. Normal stuff, but I knew Jenna would see it. And she did. She watched every single story within minutes. I'd catch myself grinning, imagining her seething. Then I took it further. I unblocked her on one platform, not to talk, but so she could see what she thought she wanted. Me thriving. Every smiling photo with Taylor was like a blade. Every casual caption, best weekend yet, was salt in the wound. And sure enough, Jenna cracked. One night, she made a burner and commented on one of Taylor's posts. "Enjoy him while you can. He always comes back to me." Except, she slipped. She signed it, J. We screenshotted it immediately. Proof. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt the power shift. She wasn't the puppeteer anymore. I was pulling the strings. And I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. So don't forget to subscribe. Update 1. Hey, it's Alex checking back in. Honestly, I didn't expect my last post to blow up the way it did. Reading through the comments felt like getting handed a cold beer after running a marathon. Some of y'all had me laughing so hard I nearly woke Taylor, 26, female. Others hit me with advice I didn't even know I needed. And yeah, some of you told me to burn her life to the ground. Tempting, trust me, but let me catch you up on what actually went down. First off, a lot of you called it Jenna, 27, female, thrives on attention, and me ignoring her only made her more unhinged. That bar incident? Yeah, it got recorded. Multiple angles. By the next morning, the video was already making the rounds in our city's little Facebook gossip groups. Comments ranged from "someone get her a therapist" to "she looks like she's auditioning for Jerry Springer." I didn't post it, didn't even share it. I didn't have to. The internet ate her alive. But here's the kicker. Remember how I said she left that comment on Taylor's Instagram, signed J? We used that. Taylor didn't delete it, she pinned it. So now, anyone scrolling her page sees Jenna outing herself as a stalker. That single move flipped the sympathy. People who used to buy into Jenna's victim act suddenly saw the truth. The DMs poured in. Old acquaintances, even a couple of Jenna's former friends, messaged me saying stuff like, "Wow, guess we all see the real her now." One guy even admitted Jenna had tried to spin this whole breakup as me emotionally abusing her. Funny how quick that story fell apart once she went nuclear in public. A lot of comments here told me to start documenting everything. Smartest advice I've gotten. I saved every screenshot, every weird burner message, every voicemail where she swings between sobbing and screaming. I'm building a little digital vault just in case this turns into a legal thing. Now, about revenge. Some of you said it wasn't worth it, that moving on is the best payback. And normally, I'd agree. But I'll be real. There's a part of me that still wants her to feel what she made me and Taylor feel. Not just ignored, not just blocked, humiliated. Because that's the one thing Jenna can't survive. being laughed at instead of feared. So yeah, I'm not gonna key her car or trash her apartment. That's her level of petty. My plan? Make her unravel publicly with nothing but the truth. No lies, no setups, just putting a spotlight on her until she burns herself down. And from the way things are going, I think the stage is already set. I stopped pretending I wanted to avoid drama. I wanted the exact kind of spectacle Jenna, 27, female, lived for. But this time the spotlight would be on the truth, and it would sting her because it would be built from her own hands. First, prep. I saved everything: screenshots, timestamps, the burner account DMs, the video from the bar where she threw wine, the voicemail where she said, "I'll erase her," the photo of my truck with the deliberate scratch. Taylor, 26, female, handed me a stack of the abusive comments Jenna left under her posts. She'd screenshot them before blocking the burner. I printed a couple of things, not everything. I didn't want to gloat. Just the pieces that turned Jenna's performance into receipts. I sent a quiet text to 3 people I knew Jenna still cared about: an ex-college roommate, a mutual friend from the bar, and a woman who used to manage her side gig. I told them, if she shows up to create a scene, I'm going to share what she's been doing. I want witnesses who know the truth. Nobody asked for details. They came. I didn't bait her. I offered what sounded like a truce. Brunch at a neutral spot, mid-morning, to finally close things properly. I let her think she could control the conversation. Of course she took it. She loves control like it's oxygen. The restaurant was small, sun-splashed, with a patio that made every conversation feel louder. Jenna arrived early, hair perfect, face primed for crisis. She sat across from me like she always had, chin up, playing the victim already, eyes scanning the room for an audience. I started slow, the way you start a song so people lean in. I told one short story about a small kindness she'd done years ago because I wasn't a monster. And then I asked a simple question. Why did you follow every single one of my stories for 6 months after I left? Her mouth opened, closed. Because I cared, she said. Because you made me this way. Classic. Then I pulled out my phone and I played a single audio file. It was short. Her voice recorded the week she'd shown up at my job saying, "Flat, without me, you're nothing. If you erase me, I'll erase her." The patio went quiet. I watched the color drain from her face. She realized performance alone wouldn't flip this script. I didn't scream. I read aloud messages she'd sent from her burner. Threats thinly veiled with sobbing. The flirty DMs to mutual acquaintances trying to bait sympathy. The "you'll regret this" messages to Taylor. I put each line out there like laying cards on a table. People who had once shrugged at her rants now frowned. The ex-roommate leaned in and said, "I thought she was dramatic, but this is different." The mutual friend, her usual bar audience, shook his head. Jenna shifted from anger to calculation to panic. She lunged for my phone like she could seize the narrative by force. Taylor stood up, steady, and said, very calmly, "Hands off our stuff." That broke her. She smashed a coffee cup down, wine-splattered hands flying, and the plate cracked like the last of her control. She screamed for everyone to listen and started inventing stories, claims I'd harassed her, that I'd cheated, that I'd manipulated people. The crowd, now primed, didn't fold. They asked for proof. She had none. That's when she did something she'd never done in front of me. She got physical. She lunged at Taylor, nails scraping the side of her face, then stomped out. 10 minutes later, a neighbor texted a photo. One of Taylor's tires flattened, a jagged slash across rubber. Jenna's signature: messy, emotional explosions that turn into property damage. We called the police. I filed a report with the screenshots clipped to it. I posted nothing because I didn't need to. Word spread faster than any post. Friends of friends, colleagues, and some of Jenna's own people reached out admitting they'd suspected something and were sorry they hadn't said so sooner. The ex-roommate sent a text I kept for later. She always needed an audience. Today, the audience turned on her. Walking home, Taylor leaned her head on my shoulder and muttered, "That felt awful." It did. I hadn't wanted violence. I hadn't wanted fear in her eyes, but something essential had shifted. Jenna's mask was cracking in public, and for the first time, the stories about her weren't just hers to tell. Inside, I felt a tight, odd relief. Sweet, not savage. She'd built herself on being untouchable. She'd said, "You'll never find someone like me." I'd found someone different. Someone who held my hand at a table full of witnesses, who stayed when things got ugly. That, I thought as I tightened my arm around Taylor, was the real upgrade. When I pulled into my driveway that night, my stomach dropped. Someone had carved "liar" across the hood of my truck with what looked like a key. Deep, jagged letters that cut all the way down to the metal, and I didn't even need to guess who it was. The rage that hit me was so sharp I had to just stand there in the dark for a second, fists clenched, trying not to lose it completely. That truck wasn't just a car, it was mine. Years of sweat and overtime hours went into paying it off, and she knew exactly what it meant to me. That's why she chose it. I called the cops, filed the report, gave them all the screenshots of her threats from earlier that week. They nodded, said all the right things, but I could see it in their faces. They weren't going to do much unless she crossed the line harder. And maybe a part of me knew she eventually would. A week later, she proved me right. I was at the grocery store with Emily, just grabbing some stuff for dinner, when Rachel showed up out of nowhere. She stormed into the aisle like a hurricane, eyes red, breathing hard, holding her phone up like she was filming some expose. "You think you can just replace me with her?" she screamed, pointing straight at Emily. "Everyone needs to see what kind of man you really are." People stopped and stared. Emily froze, clutching the basket tighter. I tried to get between them, told Rachel to calm down, but she shoved past me so hard a box of cereal toppled off the shelf. And then, in front of a dozen strangers, she grabbed Emily's arm. That was it for me. I yanked her back, not hard, just enough to break her grip, and said, loud enough for the whole aisle to hear, "Rachel, if you ever put your hands on her again, I swear this ends with you in handcuffs." She started sobbing instantly, like flipping a switch. Collapsed to the floor, screaming about how I'd abandoned her, how I was abusive, how Emily was stealing her life. Theatrics at full blast. And the worst part? Some people actually looked at me like maybe she was telling the truth. That cut deeper than the scratches on my truck. Store security had to escort her out. Emily was shaking so badly she dropped the groceries. I drove us home in silence, every muscle in my body buzzing with fury. That night, as I scrubbed the carved word off my truck with useless polish, I realized something. Rachel wasn't just lashing out. She was unraveling. And if I didn't get ahead of this, she was going to destroy everything. Me, Emily, maybe even herself. And that's when the idea for my revenge started to form. Not payback in the usual sense. Something quieter, sharper, a way to flip the script so everyone finally saw her for what she really was. Update 2. Alex here. Quick update, because y'all kept asking and because I need to unload some of the noise before it eats me. First, thank you. The messages since the last post have been wild. Some of you sent solid, level-headed advice. Screenshots, document everything, get statements from witnesses, go to the cops. And some of you sent gems like, light her house on fire, bro. Nope. A few DMs stood out. One woman who used to be close to Jenna said, "I'm so sorry I looked away for so long," and sent a screenshot of a private message where Jenna bragged about controlling people by making them feel guilty. Another DM was just a meme of a cat flicking a wine glass with the caption, "Let her spill." I laughed until I cried. What actually mattered, and what I acted on. Documentation. I've been obsessive. Every DM Jenna sent, every burner comment, every voicemail, every posture of hers that looked like a setup. Saved, time-stamped, and backed up in 3 places. Taylor and I scanned the coffee throw video from the bar, the audio of the "erase her" line, and the comment she signed, J. It's ugly proof, but it exists. Witnesses. Remember that brunch I invited her to? I told a few people ahead of time, quietly. Those same people messaged me after the patio scene and offered statements. One of them, a bartender who's tired of drama, even recorded parts of the meltdown. Small town, small favors. It mattered. Police. I filed 2 reports, the vandalism on the truck and the harassment stalking reports after the grocery store incident and the tire slash. The officers were sympathetic and took the evidence packet I handed them. They made a note of the pattern, repeated contact, property damage, threats. That doesn't mean arrests are immediate, but it's the foundation. Several commenters said, get a restraining order, and that's where we're leaning next. The cop suggested we build the timeline first so the PO has teeth. How the internet reacted, because apparently this is now public property. Some people screamed, move on. Fair. I'm tired of the hate energy too. A surprising number of folks sent their own stories about a Jenna in their life. That felt less crazy and more clarifying. One commenter pointed out, she's not in love with you, she's in love with drama. That line hit like a cold shower. What surprised me emotionally? Rage is easy. The hard thing has been the slow burn of anxiety, checking locks, watching Taylor flinch at knocks on the door, feeling like we live in a 3 alarms of panic movie. I'm also surprised by how vindicated and hollow I feel at once when people finally call her out. I wanted justice, but not the cost. Taylor's shaken, and I keep replaying the grocery store rows in my head. What I won't do, I won't stoop to illegal sabotage or anything that would make me look like the monster Jenna keeps trying to paint me as. Plenty of y'all recommended theatrics. I chose receipts, plus witnesses, plus law. Poetic, clean, less likely to land me in trouble. Also, it's more satisfying watching someone implode because of their own choices than because I shoved them. What's next? Brief because I hate updates that promise and don't deliver. We're filing for a temporary protection order this week. Not to be dramatic, because the pattern is clear and we want documented legal protection. I'm continuing to collect corroboration and asking people who saw things to put statements in writing. I'll keep sharing the public timeline when it's useful, not to gloat, but so other people don't get gaslit by her narrative. Standout, unexpected support. A woman who used to be in Jenna's friend circle texted me screenshots that show Jenna DMing others to make them pick a side. That was the last straw for a couple of her friends. They unfollowed and quietly apologized. Small social fractures can become big ones. Finally, to the commenters who told me, don't waste your life on revenge. I hear you. My endgame isn't to destroy her, it's to protect my life and Taylor's, to make sure she can't keep doing this to people, and to hold the record straight. If that means I have to sit in court and read receipts while she cries and tries to perform, then that's where we go. I'm tired but less afraid. That feels like progress. When I left off, Jessica had gone full chaos mode, slashing my tires, crying in my driveway, screaming like the world owed her an explanation for why I wouldn't let her back in. Meanwhile, I was trying to protect both myself and Emily, who deserved none of this insanity. So here's what happened next. A week after the tire incident, Jessica started showing up at my job. Not inside, security would have kicked her out immediately, but outside the parking lot parked across the street in that dented Honda she never got rid of. Just sitting there, engine running, windows cracked, watching. I'd walk out at the end of my shift and feel her eyes on me. My coworkers noticed. One of them, Tony, even walked me to my truck once and muttered, "Bro, she looks like the Exorcist waiting for a sequel." The sick part? I wasn't even angry anymore. I was scared. Real, stomach-clenching scared. I kept thinking, what if she followed me home? What if she cornered Emily at the grocery store? What if she showed up at night? I started double-checking the locks, sleeping light, keeping a baseball bat by the bed. Then, 2 nights later, fear turned into rage. Emily and I had just finished dinner when I heard a loud thunk outside. My gut knew before my legs moved. I sprinted out, and there it was. Jessica's handwriting smeared across the side of my truck in neon pink spray paint. Cheater. She even drew broken hearts under it, like some twisted middle school doodle session. Emily came out behind me, gasped, and covered her mouth. I felt my ears ringing, heat crawling up my neck. All I could think was, she wants to humiliate me. She wants to make me look like the villain because I didn't bow down and keep taking her poison. I called the cops. For once, I didn't hesitate. When they showed up, Jessica was still in the street, arms crossed like she was proud of her work. When the officer asked if she did it, she screamed, "He deserved it! He led me on for years!" Right there in front of neighbors who'd gathered on porches. They cuffed her while she wailed about how no one would ever love me like she did. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. Because the next morning she was already back online, stalking my Instagram, lurking on every story I posted within seconds, like clockwork. Emily laughed it off at first, joking, Guess she's your biggest fan. But it didn't feel funny. It felt like a warning, like Jessica wasn't done yet. And deep down, I knew she wasn't. Everything had been building toward this. Months of Jenna, 27, female, screaming in parking lots, carving words into my truck, throwing drinks, lunging at Taylor, 26, female, creating burners, humiliating herself in public, all while claiming I was the unstable one. I was done playing defense. After the spray paint incident, I realized the cops alone weren't going to fix this. Sure, they cuffed her that night, but she was out in less than 12 hours, already back online, already watching my stories. That was when I made the decision. If Jenna wanted an audience so badly, I'd give her one, but not the kind she could control. Step 1. Documentation. Every screenshot, every recording, every voicemail where her voice cracked between rage and sobbing, the bar video, the brunch meltdown, the comment she accidentally signed J, the tire/photos. I built a file so thick even her best lies couldn't punch through it. Step 2. Timing. I didn't dump it all at once. I waited until Jenna slipped again, because she always did. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, she went nuclear on Facebook. A long dramatic post about how I cheated on her with Taylor, how I gaslit her for years, how she was the real victim. She tagged mutual friends, coworkers, even my mom. And that's when I moved. I uploaded a single post, not rage, not insults, just screenshots. A carousel of her own words, time-stamped, signed with her initials. A clip of her screaming in the bar, wine flying. The audio where she threatened to erase Taylor. The spray-painted truck. No commentary, just the evidence, back to back so people could see the pattern. I let her bury herself. The reaction was immediate. Friends unfollowed her. Acquaintances who used to defend her DM'd me apologies. Even her old roommate commented publicly, "Glad someone finally showed what she's really like." It wasn't just my story anymore, it was the truth. In her handwriting, in her voice, undeniable. Jenna lost it. She flooded my phone with calls, screaming that I'd ruined her life. She posted shaky, tear-streaked videos claiming I'd edited everything. But the receipts were too clear, too damning. Each denial only made her look more unhinged. And the sweet revenge? Watching her unravel with no one left to clap for the performance. She wasn't feared. She wasn't pitied. She was mocked. For someone like Jenna, that was worse than jail. Taylor sat next to me the night it all blew up, hand on mine, whispering, "You don't have to prove anything anymore. People finally see." And for the first time in months, I actually believed it. Jenna was right about one thing, though. I'll never find someone like her. Because I upgraded, and now she's just a ghost in my notifications, haunting my story views, desperate for a stage that doesn't exist anymore. And me? I'm finally free.